But why does it even have to be a conspiracy? Like, if you just look at what is absolute about space, forget about all the measurements. Just forget about all the numbers, because I don't know and you don't know.
I don't know.
Just forget about that. Just like what they're figuring out right now about Mars. I mean, they're sending back these images from these rovers, and these scientists are debating what this is, what that is, if this is actual running water at one point in time, if this is some sort of strange. All that for sure is really happening, 100%.
I think that's all bullshit.
You don't think they're really on Mars?
I think they're faking everything. I think they're faking everything. I think all that's fake.
You don't think they landed on Mars with a rover?
I think it's all fake.
How come?
It's just too hard.
It's too hard to do?
They got to, you know what? They've lied so much. NASA's lied so goddamn much that I don't believe shit they say. I don't believe shit they say.
I believe for sure they have shot rockets into space because we can watch it happen. And also for sure people have died when they've launched those rockets into space. But they definitely have a way to move rovers around on Mars now. It's not a biological impediment. It's not like they have to keep people, like they're saying if they're going to fly people out there, it's going to take 6 months. And, you know, they have to have enough food to stay alive and air and whatever the fuck. They have to make sure they don't get hit by micrometeors. They're going to put them on the surface of Mars. But that's not a person, though. You're talking about like a rover.
It looks like fucking Arizona with like a red tint. You run
probably
because
Mars looks like Arizona.
They make it red and shit. Come on. I think it's all bullshit.
Okay.
I don't believe anything.
Well, you know, there's nothing on Mars that doesn't exist on Earth.
That's what they say. I mean, that's what they say.
Isn't that correct? As far as like the minerals that they're finding in the soil or the kind of dirt that they're experiencing. I mean, I think it's different in its appearance and its imagery, but it could just be that that's what planets without water look like.
When you see a real picture of Mars, you see a dot of light. That's
right.
That's Mars.
I understand, but that's what we see. But like when you're looking at Mars, right, or you're looking at the desert, like in Arizona, like that crazy desert, the Utah, Arizona, you know, those rocks and shit, all that crazy desert.
Oh,
that might as well be Mars.
That could be anything.
If you thought Mars was completely different from Earth, think again.
That could be Pomona.
Our warm blue planet is more similar in some ways to the desolate red planet than you know. And we have comparison images to prove it. Find out about the actual minerals in it. See if you can find like if the soil is significantly different. I mean, the soil varies all over the place on Earth, right? I mean, soil's everywhere.
You don't think there's a little tiny chance, small little percentage that they could be faking that?
No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think it's hard to do. I mean, I think it's hard to do, but they've done it. Look, they've already got all these crazy satellite images of Earth. They got satellite images all the way out to Jupiter's moons. They've got that satellite image of that frozen moon. What's that frozen moon?
Oh, let me see if that's CGI. Find that They got a picture of a frozen fucking moon. I guarantee you it's CGI.
Oh, what is the fucking the frozen
Jesus.
the water moon?
Come on.
What is it called?
No way they could take a picture of a fucking moon.
Hold on a second, man.
That's CGI.
What is Mars made of? Comparison of planet Mars, Martian soil is defined. Blah 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 blah.
Bullshit.
Properties can differ significantly from those of terrestrial soil. The term Martian soil typically refers to the fine fraction of what is that? What is that word?
Regolith?
Regolith on Earth. The term soil usually includes organic content. Oh, that's interesting. So because everything's dead, it's dirt, it's not soil. Huh. That's interesting, right? Like soil is a fucking life form. That's what people don't think about. Have you ever seen one of those documentaries where they show the interaction between the mycelium and the roots of the trees and even rocks themselves? Like how they have this sort of crazy relationship? Radiolab did this amazing podcast on it, man. You know, we think of a tree as being like, there's a tree, it's in the ground, it's by itself, and then there's another tree over there. No, they're all connected, like in some crazy super highway of give and take. They give each other sugars and minerals, and the mycelium actually clings to rocks and pulls minerals out of the rocks, and they all exist together in this crazy ecosystem. It's an amazing podcast, man. If you listen to it, it's a mind blower. It's
I wonder how they figured all that out.
They actually have seen these things under the microscope. They were showing these things, that these things exist in just a small area. You'll find miles and miles of this, like, sort of fungus growth. And fungus, apparently, the way it's explained to me, like when you see like mushrooms aren't like a plant. They're closer to a person than they are to a plant. Mushrooms breathe air.
Wait a minute. You just said mushrooms are closer to a person than a plant?
Than they are a plant. They're more like a life form.
Damn.
They're more like, they're weird, man.
You believe that?
Mushrooms are weird. It's a weird growth.
Okay.
It's some sort of a living thing that doesn't move, but they interconnect in some strange way with all the plants around them and become like a highway system. They even this podcast, they were talking about how they find a tree that's like specifically needy and they channel resources to that tree. Like there's like some sort of a way that these plants are communicating with each other. They're just struggling to understand right now. They really don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just know that something is happening and that we may have looked at plants as being these inanimate things or these things that they live but they don't have any awareness whatsoever of their surroundings. Now they know that they can play the sound of caterpillars chewing leaves around plants, and these plants will release a toxin that makes their leaves taste like shit to discourage predation. Like
and the ones that eat, they couldn't get any spray on them. They ran out of spray.
What do you mean?
The ones that the bugs do eat is probably the ones that probably they don't spray the older ones.
This is not a real. They don't use real bugs for this. They take the sound. This is where it's fucked up. They take a recording of a caterpillar eating leaves, and they make the recording go off next to the tree, and the tree starts releasing those chemicals. Somehow or another, it's taking in the sound waves, because that's all they are, of a caterpillar eating leaves, and it's causing the leaves to become more bitter.
Eventually, there's going to be one plant that knows it's a trick, and then it'll breed and evolve, and then you got to change the systems.
Well, yeah, all the animals are going to starve to death. Like, they've had problems where animals will eat upstream from other animals. So if a bunch of animals are eating, the sound of the animals eating that plant gets into the system, and all the leaves go bitter, and the animals won't eat the leaves, and then they wind up getting sick and dying. Now here's where it gets trippy.
What gets sick?
Here's where
the
it gets
plant?
trippy. No, the animals. They get sick and die because they don't eat. They starve to death.
Because the plants taste like shit.
Because the plants taste like shit.
Damn, there's a war going on right under our nose and we didn't know.
Well, here's where it gets really weird. That plant that they're talking about that does all this, that's the acacia plant. That's the plant that those Jerusalem scholars think might be DMT. It might be what Moses saw when Moses saw the burning bush that became God. Like that was God that was communicating with him. They think it might be the acacia tree because the acacia tree is rich in dimethyltryptamine. And the acacia tree is the tree that when animals are eating it upstream, the ones downstream, they change their taste. They smell it or they hear it or somehow or another they become aware through the ground that the ones uphill are getting eaten, so they all taste like shit, and animals start starving to death. By the way, some of that may not be true, but I believe it is. According to that Radiolab podcast, I believe it's true.